Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So, I apologize if you did not see any videos last week. This will start this week's set of videos. I've decided to start with our good old friend, NiceChessD. So let us begin. I'm black, NiceChessD is white, so e4, c5, knight f3, e6. So what do we call this? We call this the Khan variation of the Sicilian defense. And after d4, c takes, knight f6, knight c3. Here I played a6, and this is a move order inaccuracy. So, I should have played knight c6. I could have also played bishop b4 if I wanted to. But the main move here, I believe, there's a6, there's queen c7. Knight f6 is not exactly a move, but it is there. So there's also the classical Sicilian with knight c6 and the Scheveningen, but that's all weird theory. So yeah, a6, queen c7, knight c6, knight f6, all good moves. I chose knight f6 and then I followed it up with the wrong move. So a6 is a very bad mistake. So here white can play the move e5, and after something like knight g8, well, number one, you can put that bishop on f4, you can put that knight on e4 and hop that knight to d6, and black's camp isn't going to look pretty. So I was very thankful the moment NiceChessD did not play e5. So here I played queen c7, just following routine, preventing e5, and at the same time preparing this bishop b4 and this really devastating looking pin. So here, NiceChessD played bishop takes f6. Understandable, wanting to sort of break my pawn structure a little bit, but also, this is a very consequential trade. So after every trade, you want to think to yourself, are you benefiting from this trade? And here there is a justification that, okay, white benefits because it takes advantage of black's pawn structure, makes it worse. So that's possible. But after queen d2, I decided, you know what? Let's play h5. Let's be sneaky. Right? So I'm going to be sneaky. What is the plan after h5? Well, the plan is I prevent white from castling queenside, because then there's bishop h6. So essentially, bishop h6, then that is going to be the end of white's journey, right? White's going to lose a queen, and it's not going to go well. So that's why I play h5. It's very sneaky, right? So initially, I was going to be like, okay, let's go b5, bishop b7, maybe go like bishop b4, d6, knight d7. Well, you get the point, right? I'm developing, I'm getting my pieces out. But by playing h5, I sort of set up this sneaky trap and say, just in case if you castle, I have a weapon at my disposal. So after h4, I was like, wow, it's very committal. Like, I'm not intending to push here. All I'm doing is saying I'm giving my bishop some room to breathe. That's it. So after h4, I play b5. I just leave this threat open just in case if our opponent NiceChessD forgets. So a3, good, stopping the move b4, right? So in Sicilians, this is a very common thing. Bishop b7, maybe a b4. So with playing a3, this is the right move. So after bishop b7, now comes f3. And after f3 is the critical moment. So here comes queen to g3 check. Now, if you were wondering why white cannot play queen f2, it's because after queen takes f2, king takes f2, bishop to c5, rook to d1, and something like knight to c6, knight e2, e5, or just playing e5 here, black is going to get that knight on d4. So what happens instead? Well, king d1 happens instead, and here you'll see the use of this bishop, right? This diagonal suddenly becomes extremely powerful. Queen e1, queen d6. Now just taking away the d2 square and pressuring it this way. So knight e2, knight c6, c3, and here I played e5. And here there's no way out of losing the piece because pinned, about to capture, nothing much. The knight cannot go here because it's pinned, so I'll take that. Rook d1, rook c8, just saying, you know, if you take back, I'm going to take back and discover check you. After king b1, I say I'm going to push my pawn to d3. Right? If you get your knight to g3, I might push it one more square. Rook takes d3, queen takes d3, and you'll see that our friend NiceChessD did resign because I was thinking about maybe bishop e3, maybe knight a5, knight b3, but here you can see like the power of these extra pieces, right? We were able to dive into white's enemy camp just through with the help of this diagonal, right? This diagonal serves so much. So it felt like to me h4 was a little bit unnecessary on white's part. Right, so number one, I should not have allowed e5. And number two, f3 was probably not the best move, right? It allowed the queen g3 that led to all this devastation. So I would say maybe just go with the move bishop e2. Maybe go with the move knight b3. Maybe go with the move rook d1. But just a developing move besides f3, strengthening the pawn. Now I know it might be worrisome to say, you know, if this knight moves, we're going to take, right? And obviously in Sicilian position, it's actually very common for white to play the move f3, except this is just not the right timing. And so after this was really where everything just fell apart in an instant. So let's go to the next game. Once again, I'm facing NiceChessD. After this was a very strong strategic game, so it was essentially a Ray Lopez, and we approached theory, right? Castles, and here I deviated from theory a little bit. Played the move a4. I believe it's still theory, but the main line here is c3 and h3 and d4, and you get the same idea. Like in the game, I show the same idea, but it's just a little bit different with the move a4. So after a4, bishop b7 happens, and here I play the move c3, intending to play d4, but also saying, you know, I'm keeping the flexibility of d3, and maneuvering this white knight is actually one of the most important strategic maneuvers in the Ray Lopez. So in the Ray Lopez, white has two ideas. Number one, push c3 and d4. Number two is to push d3 and swing the knight around so we can get to the f5 square. Those are the two main ideas. Sometimes when the knights dance around here, white gets to play f4. Sometimes that happens. But okay, let's go on. So after a4, bishop b7, c3, knight a5. So this is very standard, except it's very odd that this pawn is hanging and this pawn is hanging, right? It's very odd that happens at the same time. Usually what black does here is plays the move d6 and then plays the move knight a5, but since knight a5 opens up this diagonal, well, then black does not have to play the move d6. So after the move bishop c2, d6 comes, right? So at this moment, I've been thinking of multiple things. So first of all, I thought, what is the consequence of me taking on e5? Well, I thought, okay, knight takes b3, queen takes b3, d6, knight f3, and bishop takes e4. And here I thought, if I take, and I take on b5, well, bishop takes f3 is going to happen, and the queen's going to come down, and it's not going to look great. So I outrightly rejected that variation. And then what happened? I said, okay, maybe bishop a2, maybe bishop c2. And I said, I have to do one of those, right? Because obviously I don't have any choice to say, okay, I'm going to take this pawn. So I just retreated my bishop back to c2, no biggie. d6 happened, and here I finally struck in the center with d4. After knight c4, I played the move b3, just simply saying, I might want to bring my knight out this way. I might want to bring my bishop out this way. Maybe my bishop out here, knight out here. You'll notice that I'm starting to set up, right? So when we look at the white side of Ray Lopez, we can see that these four guys, they're mostly developed, right? You look at White's Ray Lopez and you see these two guys are still clumsy on the back rank. And that is because, the Ray Lopez is or the Spanish game is a very strategic, slow-moving opening where it's really, it gives White the freedom to say, I'm going to play at my own pace. And for Black, it's a matter of, I'm going to not get wrecked and stay in the pace. And if White gives me chances to outplay, then Black will outplay White. But if there's no chance, then the Ray Lopez creates a very solid game. About 60 to 70% of the time, it will end in a draw. Unless, somebody plays sloppily and somebody plays brilliantly, well then, you know who won there, the brilliant one. Knight b6 happens. I decide, you know what, I'm going to take on b5 because why? I'm going to take, and here I enter the move queen e2. Here I have two purposes. Obviously, one is to defend my pawn, very defensive resource, but more importantly, I have now established these two weaknesses, and I've said, I don't really care about the development of my pieces yet. This is one of those many few situations where you decide, the development of these pieces are not going to affect the ability of me to be able to strike at my opponent. So essentially, I go for the pawns, and at first you might be like, well, didn't you tell me to develop your pieces? Well, yeah, I told you to develop the pieces, but also, sometimes material can be important as well. So I'm just saying that in some cases you have to evaluate whether it is the development that matters more or whether it's the strategic maneuvering and the material that matters more. So I take, and after rook b8, it's very double-edged, right? Black has the A file and the B file, and I'll leave you on that. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening.